Bitcoin, Visa, PayPal, the SWIFT system. What do all of these have in common?
They can be used to make payments.
Very good. Today we're going to be discussing my top 5 reasons why Bitcoin is the ultimate payments network. Buckle up, class. We've got a lot to cover today. So Bitcoin helps provide fast and final settlements across borders. You know the message, like it's going to be 3 to 5 business days before you have access to your funds? Well, for international transfers, you're looking at well over a week, whereas Bitcoin finalizes in under an hour, and it's the same for all transactions, which actually that has too many profound long-term impacts to discuss in depth today. But one way this is impacting the world right now is through remittances. Do you know what those are?
Actually, I do. It's when someone sends money to family or friends internationally. You're usually charged 15% and it takes about a week or 2 to get there. But with Bitcoin, you're usually charged less than 1% and it takes no more than an hour to get there.
Yes, very, very good. Now, on our number 2 point is that Bitcoin is permissionless in its transactions. So what does that mean? Nobody can stop the transaction if you want to send it. Not the government, a bank, a foreign government. Nobody can stop your Bitcoin transactions. And whereas many people in kind of the wealthier West don't really kind of scoff at that, they don't think too much of it because our banking system is relatively stable and free. But you have to remember that there's many people around the world that don't have those privileges, that live under much harsher regimes, that control much more of their monetary system and, again, restrict what they're allowed to do banking-wise. And honestly, even if you look in the United States and Canada, it doesn't take too much digging to find people who have had their accounts banned or frozen when they weren't even convicted of any crimes, and most of the time not even formally accused of anything.
So you mean like the truckers in Canada and the people who bank with JP Morgan and Chase who recently had their accounts frozen?
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that you're paying attention to the world around you. See, the question you really want to ask yourself is, if you worked hard and you earned that money, do you want anybody who you've likely never met before to have the power to be able to freeze that account or block your transactions? And if you think that only immoral criminals and bad actors have their accounts banned, then you, sir, have not been paying attention in history class. The world's full of authoritarians just waiting to impose their will on other people. Bitcoin just helps make that impossible.
Oh, is it impossible for Bitcoin because of how decentralized it is? I mean, there's so many people all over the world in different countries utilizing different incentive programs that it pretty much makes it impossible to do anything negative to the network.
Yeah, very good. Maybe you weren't cheating on your last test.
Who would I cheat off of?
Touché. Anyway, back to the lesson. Bitcoin has lower fees than most other payment networks or credit card companies. Now, this isn't true 100% of the time, but it is true most of the time. And if you use Bitcoin's Lightning Network, then this makes fees basically zero. Quickly, the Lightning Network helps facilitate faster and cheaper Bitcoin payments. Just for now, before we get into it in later classes, think of it as an app that makes interacting with the underlying system easier. Like how your banking app allows you to get most of the services of banking without having to physically go into the bank or transact in the physical money. Now, do you know why Bitcoin is the most secure network on the planet?
Yeah, well, decentralization is one point, but I mean, there's so much energy backing the network in the form of miners that it pretty much makes it impossible to break.
Yeah, very good again, man. You're on fire today. Yes, and we'll talk about the miners in detail in later classes, but Bitcoin miners are basically backing and securing the network with a massive amount of energy. It's like a giant, super strong force shield protecting the network. Connor, how many people in the world are unbanked, as in they simply don't have access to banking services at all?
Like 300 million?
No, over 2 billion people around the world still don't have access to banking services, not to mention all the people that live in countries that heavily restrict what people are allowed to do with regards to their banking. This is something that, again, many people in the wealthier West kind of scoff at or don't necessarily think is that big of a deal, but then you realize how many people around the world don't have access to even basic services like being able to save money. All you need with Bitcoin is an internet connection. And actually, there are people working on ways to interact with the system without an internet connection, but that's beyond the scope of this video. There are no censorship, age restrictions, account minimums, nothing along those lines. Bitcoin is for the betterment of all people. It is not just a cute investment toy.
Wow, I didn't know the situation was so bad for so many people. I mean, but there has to be some downside to Bitcoin. It can't all be good.
That's actually a great point and question here. So we're going to discuss my 3 big ways that Bitcoin doesn't live up to, say, snuff as a payments network. One is the unit of account is volatile, especially in terms of the fiat currency that many people measured in, which is of course appropriate because most of the world is still using those fiat currencies for most of their purchases and saving money, etc. Number two is that not that many businesses and stuff actually accept Bitcoin yet. And number three is that in most countries, using Bitcoin as a payment or selling it is considered a taxable event. However, I want you to think about this. That's what it means to be early to adopting Bitcoin as a technology. This is a global, decentralized project that's going to take time to reach its full height, right? But every single day, more people join the network. Every single day, more businesses accept it. More and more people are building applications and products to interact with the system to make it easier to use, better to use. It's growing quite quickly, and that's how you can actually secure yourself a significant piece of that network, is you see the great opportunities before the majority. By the time 20% of the world is using Bitcoin, then you're going to have missed out on the opportunity to create generational wealth. Whew, that was a lot of information for one class, especially that wasn't financial advice.
I think I may need to revisit this to soak it all in. Good thing you put all your classes on the Beyond Finance YouTube channel. I think I'm going to go back and review what makes something good money as well by clicking on the pop-up card at the end of this video.